Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. We meet again. Alhamdulillah. Inshallah, this beautiful day of Zulhijjah, blessed day of Zulhijjah. Let's start off with the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure and His closeness and His rewards. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, let's go on to the Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم ارزقنا يا ربي فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافيتي يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين وفقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل وهدنا إلى سواء السبيل اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا وعرفنا بالعلم النافع وانفعنا به أنفسنا وأهلنا وأوطاننا وديارنا وجميع المسلمين يا إله العالمين الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الحمد لله الحمد لله. We continue with our legacy. Bless us, Alhamdulillah, for having such a legacy, inshallah. All right, we are on with the saviors of the Islamic spirit. We are with Khawaja Nizamuddin Awliya. All right, Khawaja Fariduddin Ganshar. Khawaja Moinuddin Chisti was indisputable the founder of Chistiya order in India, but was promoted by Khawaja Fariduddin, whose two disciples, Khawaja Nizamuddin Dehlavi and Sheikh Alauddin Ali Sabir of Aliyar, spread it far and wide in the country. So this is still prelude to Khawaja Nizamuddin, right? And we have mentioned a bit about the Chistiya order. Is an order, is a path leading towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with various ways of doing devotions, right? Specific devotions. Of course, the wajib devotions are always there, the prayers, the 5 times prayers, but they have extra zikrs and extra fasting and things like that. And the strive towards purification of the heart, to remove any kind of evil from the heart, right, and purify it with all kinds of good, inshallah. All right, we continue. The first name of the Khawaja was Mas'ud, the surname Fariduddin, but he is commonly known by the appellation of Gan Shakar. His grandfather, Qadi Shu'aib, a lineal descendant of the second caliph, that means a descendant of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, had migrated from Kabul to Lahore because of the Tatar depredation. So because of the attacks of the Tatars, we saw and many scholars migrating. Of course, Kabul is in Afghanistan, present-day Afghanistan, and Lahore is in present-day Pakistan. There was no Pakistan then. All of them are under the Indian subcontinent. It's called a subcontinent because it's not as big as a continent. He stayed for a while in Kasur and then settled in Kahenwal, where he was granted an estate and appointed as a Qadi. So because of his knowledge, he becomes a Qadi. Right? He's a knowledgeable person. Fariduddin was born here in 596 after Hijrah. When still young, he traveled to Multan, this in India, then a great educational center of the country for higher education. In Multan, he studied under different teachers, among whom was also Maulana Minhajuddin, who taught him Al-Nafi, the renowned book on juristic sciences. So they study a lots of books. They have lots of knowledge. They understand things very well. These are people with great personalities in Islam. It was here in Multan that Fariduddin met Khawaja Kutubuddin. We talked about Kutubuddin before. Bakhtiyar Kaki in 548 after Hijrah, and immediately took an oath of allegiance to him. So this is a standard procedure with the Sufi orders. We've mentioned about 4 Sufi orders. We've got the Chishtiya, we've got the Qadariyah, we've got the Shurhawadi, and we've got the Naqshbandi, right? And whoever wants to enter into this path, right, you must take an oath of allegiance. That means a bay'ah with the chief of the tariqah. Tariqah is a path. Now, this idea of taking bay'ah is not uncommon to Islam, because those people who, during the Prophet's time, sallallahu, when people want to enter into Islam, they will take a bay'ah, and the bay'ah is where you will. It's like an agreement, a covenant, right, between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You would follow certain rules and regulations, right? And Rasulullah had his bay'ah, and his bay'ah was well known that they shouldn't commit zina, they shouldn't do this, shouldn't this. So it is an important process in allowing us to move towards following the ways, the path, of course, with Rasulullah, following the way of Rasulullah. These people, these orders also do not move away from Rasulullah. They follow the ways of teachings of Rasulullah. He also decided to accompany his Sheikh by terminating his education, but the latter persuaded him to complete his studies first, which he did in India and abroad. So here we saw that his eagerness to continue to be with his Sheikh, this is Bakhtiyar Kaki, was not allowed, because his Sheikh advised him to continue his studies first. So he did study in India and abroad. After completion of his education, Fariduddin came back to Delhi, where his Sheikh selected a place near Ghazni Gate for his stay. So normally, right, this is a standard procedure with those in specific Sufi orders, right? Their Sheikh is their leader, and they would follow the instructions of their leader. Sometimes who to marry, where to stay, everything is actually according to the advice of their leaders. They busy themselves with prayer and meditation. So there's a lot of meditation to be done, right? Those who are those who want to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does a lot of salah, fikir, right? Reflection, zikr, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is part of the awrat, and the awrat is plural of wirid, awrat, that we have learned also with the book of assistance by Imam Al-Haddad. After he was gifted with spiritual enlightenment and illumination, he was permitted by Khawaja Kutubuddin to stay at Hansi with one of his disciples, Sheikh Jamaluddin Khatib. All right, now to achieve spiritual enlightenment and illumination, that means you are blessed with the nur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are absorbed in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are special people, as mentioned during the salat. They go into a different dimension, right, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are not in the world anymore because they are so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the only way to achieve this is by guidance from a sheikh who knows, who would lead you on the various dhikrs and various aurats, and then of course at the same time purifying your hearts, right? Doing things only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Khawaja Qutbuddin died, Fariduddin was already at Hansi. He reached Delhi on the third day of his sheikh's death and was invested with the robe of his master's vicegerency by Qadi Hamiduddin Nagauri as desired by the departing mentor. So he was the one who succeeded. Right? Usually the sheikh would choose a disciple to take over him. Right? And so it was known that the sheikh has decided on Fariduddin as his successor. This was an indication that Khawaja Fariduddin should take the place of Khawaja Qutbuddin. It was the third day of Fariduddin's succession when an old acquaintance and follower, Sarhanga by name, came to see him. He was, however, not allowed to present himself before the sheikh by his attendants. So we can see that the sheikh is staying in a certain place. So he's got bodyguards, right? We call them bodyguards now, attendants, right? And the bodyguards are not allowing this old friend of his to see him. The man stayed there for a few days, and when Khawaja Fariduddin happened to come out of his residence, he fell on his knees and complained that in Hansi it was not difficult for him to pay his respect to the sheikh, but in Delhi, the poor like him could not get an access to his presence. Right? Delhi was the capital of India at that time, or the subcontinent at the time, right? And so he complained, right, that it's difficult for the poor to actually meet the sheikh because of the bodyguards around that stopped the poor from meeting the sheikh. Fariduddin took the complaint to his heart as a divine warning for the pomp and glory which he had been surrounded. So he realized that his state was not good. There's too much pomp and glory, and that the poor are being prevented from seeing him. So he saw it as a warning from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that he should move away from that. He also did not like the absence of peace and solitude at Delhi, which he regarded as an impediment in the way of his journey to higher stages of spirituality. And it seems that the surroundings in Delhi is not as peaceful and as as tranquil. He likes to be alone, and so that he can continue with his journey to higher stages of spirituality. And when you are encompassed with, when you're surrounded with all kinds of worldly attractions and pomp and glory and whatever, right? You tend not to be able to devote yourself exclusively to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. There's impediments along the way, obstructions along the way. He therefore at once decided to return to Hansi. When it was pointed out to him that his spiritual guide and mentor had desired him to take his place, he replied, my mentor had no doubt bequeathed his trust to me, but whether I live in a city or wilderness, it shall ever remain with me. So people are telling him, those people who are in Delhi were a bit upset that he was going to leave Delhi. And so they told him that his guide and mentor desired him to take his place. Well, you can see it differently. Taking his place, right, as he see it, is not about sitting where the mentor was. That's his place is in Delhi, but his place means the position of being a leader of the Chistiya order. So he says, my mentor had no doubt bequeathed his trust to me, but whether I live in a city or wilderness, it shall ever remain with me. So he says, whether it's a live in the city or in the wilderness, he will always be the successor of his mentor. So he saw taking his place as to succeed him, not so much as staying in Delhi and to take his place in Delhi. Khawaja Farid had selected Hansi so that he might live there as a recluse, unknown and undisturbed. So he wanted to just get away from get away from it all and be with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. But Maulana Nurtuk, another disciple of Khalid Khawaja Qutbuddin, told the people about his spiritual status, and they began to crowd around him here too. So when it was known that he has reached a certain spiritual state, people all gather, people all come over to see him. But basically, the common people and the lay people, they believe that this man of God, all of them are people of blessings, so they need to get blessings from these people, and they like to meet, and it's good, of course, right, to actually meet up and to be in the presence of such great personalities, such great slaves of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that you get inspired. Not only that, sometimes you get the barakah that Allah blesses these people with, we might also be blessed with all this barakah, inshallah. Khawaja Farid left for his hometown, Khanenwal, a town near Multan, but his fame having traveled faster than him, so he had to move on to Ajudan. So that's where Ajudan. All right, so he has to move from one place to another because he is being mocked. Khawaja Farid's eminence did not, however, remain hidden for long. Even in Ajudan, where the stream of visitors was often so long that he had to receive them till it was quite late in the night. So he did entertain every single visitor. They would line up, queue up just to meet him, just to get blessings, or even to get du'as from him. That's what they always do with the pious, to ask for special du'as, to ask for blessings, to ask for barakah, to ask for all kinds of things, right, from these people, because they believe that these people are close to Allah and their du'as are much more easily accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was also mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, in which when a person, right, does all the obligatory acts, and on top of that, they do sunnah acts, right, then their du'as are very much easily accepted. And also we know he's a scholar, right, considering he has studied in many places and the various teachers, and even gone abroad. Usually when they go abroad, they would have gone to higher learnings or Islamic higher learnings, so that's around the area, right, maybe. By that time, I'm not sure Baghdad was in a good state or not, or Damascus as it was, right? But they learned a lot. And as scholars, Rasulullah has said that the ulama of the ummah of Rasulullah are the warithatul anbiya. They are the inheritors of the prophets. They're not prophets, but they have very high status. In the beginning, he had not enough to live upon. A local wild fruit pilu was brought to be boiled and salted, which served as a meal for Khawaja Farid and his followers. So they live quite poorly. They don't indulge in all kinds of luxuries, right? Simple food, fruits, boiled and salted. That's what they eat. But even during those days of extreme poverty, he was not the least less careful about the lawfulness of the food taken by him. So he's very careful, despite being poor, despite not having much to eat. He was very careful of the food that was taken by him. Once, while he took a morsel in his hand to break his fast, he remarked, "This appears to be something wrong with it." Now, when they are people of great insights, great spirituality, first and foremost, to gain that great spirituality, you need to make sure your food is clean, pure. That is why we have got stories. We have stories of Imam Ahmad who would not even take the food that was bought by his son just because his son worked with the government, which at that time he believed, right, that the government was rather corrupted. Now here, and also some people, when they are of great spirituality, their body rejects non-halal or even makruh food. Right? Some people wonder why makruh is not right. Because the way we are taught, makruh is seen to be something which is not like, but not sinful. Right? They go on, many of us actually move on to the fact that it's not sinful. We forgot about the fact that it's not liked. When it's not liked, it's best not to do it, even if it's not sinful. Unless you are forced into it, then you take it, you're not sinful. So it's not something that, oh, it's okay, it's macaroni, yeah, that kind of thing, which means it's not sinful. Right, okay. There appears to be something wrong with it, he says. So he says, the servant replied, "Where you had no salt, so I borrowed a small quantity." Khawaja Farid replied, "This is against my principle. Now it's not lawful for me to take this food." So he's got certain rules and regulations, where maybe borrowed things are not allowed also in his meal. All right, anyway. It was not long before that his initial indigence gave place to affluence. So at first, poor, very, very poor, hardly anything to eat, and then becomes rich. Then the servants had to keep the dishes ready all day for the incoming guests from early morning till late in the night. So there's lots of food because it's rich. So people will come all were fed. Whoever wished could come and take food from his imperial kitchen, the huge kitchen he has. He was equally cordial to all, great and small. That was his nature, right? Because people of knowledge do not differentiate between the poor and the rich. In the words of Khawaja Nizamuddin, in what a magnanimous and wonderful way he lived, that it was difficult to emulate him. His way is just so magnanimous, and he just is, it's just so amazing, so wonderful. No one can actually try to be like him, emulate him. Whether one was an old friend or follower living with him for years, or a stranger coming for the first time to see him, he would attend to all with equal kindliness of heart. So it's a person of big heart, right? He's able to welcome, he's able to care for all. Rasulullah also, these are people who actually follow after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and because they have knowledge and they know that to be close to Allah, you need to be like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he's our guide, he's our leader, right? He's our mentor, he's the one who we should look up for, to see and to set an example of, right? To see our example in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Rasulullah sallallahu is said that all the Sahabas thinks they were favorites of him because he treats all of them the same with great kindness and care. Maulana Badruddin says, I was his chief attendant. Normally, he gave all instructions to me. With no veil of secrecy, he was the same in company or solitude. So he is not, there's no hypocrisy in him. He doesn't change his ways. Whether he is, some people, with people, they are so pious, so good and everything, but behind the closed doors, they are a different person altogether. I never noticed anything contrary to it during several years of my companionship with him. Sultan Nasruddin Mahmud once came to see Khawaja Farid at the head of a large army which was on its way to Uj and Multan. Description of the vast multitude desiring to pay homage to the Shaykh on this occasion has been thus given by Khawaja Nizamuddin. The thronging crowd was beyond control. So lots of them came. The king was there, right? And the attendants hung the sleeves of his shirt from the balcony to be kissed by the people, so they couldn't meet him. So the bodyguards all put his shirts, right? They see shirts as blessings also, right? Because these are blessed people. All right, and very soon it was torn to shreds. So this describes how many people actually go for the shirts until it was torn to shreds. At last, the Sheikh came out to the mosque and asked his attendants to form a cordon around him so that people might pay their respect without mobbing him. People came, saluted from him from a distance, and went away. So they were happy with that. Enough. It's good enough. They can see him. They hope that, whatever blessings he has, or he may don't ask for them. They're happy. Suddenly, an old sweeper broke into the cordon and fell in the feet of the Khawaja, saying, Sheikh Farid, are you fed up? You ought to offer thanks for this blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are people who are sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ask him, right? You are in this state of pomp and glory and all kinds of things, and lots of people coming after you. You seem not to want to be in direct contact with them, right? You should see this as a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and offer thanks for this great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Sheikh cried and expressed regret. So you realize that he was wrong in some sense, right? In some sense, maybe we don't see it as wrong, but he sees wrong as something, very something which is normal, is sin as wrong to him when he felt that he has not done things which Allah wants him to do. Later he bade him farewell with presents, so he gave this poor man presents. On another occasion, the Prime Minister Ghiyathuddin Baiban called upon the Sheikh on behalf of Sultan Nasruddin and presented some cash and a royal charter granting 4 villages to the Sheikh. So he was presented with money and land. The Sheikh returned the charter, he doesn't want the land, and distributed the cash among the mendicants, the poor. Ghiyathuddin Baiban succeeded Sultan Nasruddin. He was also devoted to Khawaja Fariduddin since he considered his ascension to the throne as a reward of Khawaja's blessings and invocations for him. So as you can see, this is what it was, right? These people of great closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make lots of du'as which were accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those who receive this dua, they're very, very grateful to these sheikhs. Remember when in India, I went to this, it's called Fatehpur Sikri. Right? It's a place where Salim Chisti, I think his name is Salim. So from Chistiya order also, and he actually made dua for one of the kings to have a child, and Allah blessed the king with a child. So the king was very grateful and built a place special for him. So the Khawaja always remained unconcerned and unsolicitous. He's not really, despite the fact that the Sultan will come to him, he is not, doesn't allow that to create arrogance or pride or whatever. He's just normal. So unconcerned and unsolicitous. A recommendatory letter which the Khawaja once wrote to Sultan Ghayathul Balban for a certain person bears out how little he cared for the kingdom. So that he doesn't care, doesn't respect, but he doesn't want to show the king, to give the king that kind of respect that might cause the king to be arrogant. He wrote, I present the affairs of this man first before Allah and then before you. So he's always reminding, right? In this case, he's reminding the king that this all affairs should go to Allah first, and then you as a leader, right? Then it goes to you as a human being who is a representative of a vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you come to his aid, the benefactor will really be Allah, to whom you should be grateful. So even if you help him, then Allah is the one who allows you to help him, right? So you should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can see there's lots of reminders in his letters to the king. He's not with that kind of they call it where they have this awe and great reverence for the king and things like that. But if you do not, then you would decease by the will of Allah, and no responsibility shall lie on you. It's up to you, because the aid it's not compulsory. But if you help, then you know that Allah has allowed you to help, and you'll be grateful to Him. But if you do not help, then you would desist by the will of Allah. That means your rejection is by the will of Allah, and you will not be responsible for it. However, Fariduddin had the most cordial relations with other mystics of his time. Mystics are people of the Sufi order. Mystics are people who live life, right, purifying themselves, doing as much awrat as possible. Shaykhul Islam Bahauddin Zakaria of Multan was an eminent spiritual guide and the Sheikh of Suharwardiya order, and also his contemporary. So we mentioned about this order. There's another order. There's 4 orders I've mentioned, right? So this is Suhrawadi, different spelling, different ways of saying it. All right, and also his contemporary. That means of the same kind level. The Khawaja had great regard and affection for him and always addressed him as Shaykh al-Islam. The ruling passion of Khawaja Fariduddin's life was his ardent love and devotion to Allah, which reflected his worthiness. So his life is all about love for Allah and devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we also try, we should put in effort. And despite our busy schedule in life, right, we find means and time to put aside to read the Quran, to do our zikrs, and try to increase our zikrs as mentioned. First and foremost, we should not neglect a zikr after salat, right? At least say Ayatul Kursi and the 3 tasbihs and make du'as. And we increase on the devotions, on the various zikrs. And the Quran also should be recited every day, at least 10 minutes. If you can't read, listen to it, or put in effort to learn how to read the Quran, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised that He has made it easy. And the Quran has made it easy. So that's a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make lots of dua, Ya Allah, make it easy for me to read the Quran. Make it easy for me to go through the Quran. Give me a good teacher who will teach me the Quran. Inshallah, you would be able to get it. His heart's immortal thirst for divine proximity inspired, guided, and trained such other eminent mystics as Alauddin Ali Sabir and Khawaja Nizamuddin. So his knowledge, his ibadah, his zikr, his fikr, all these things, right? He's thirsty for it. That means he goes on doing it to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that allowed him to guide and train great mystics as Alauddin Ali Sabir and Khawaja Nizamuddin. The latter relates that once he saw Khawaja Farid moving about with breathless impatience in his room and reciting some verses which meant, my only wish is to live smitten with your love. Live, if I must, beneath your feet and crumble unto dust. You alone I desire in this world and the next. With that I live for you and die for you. So this kind of they say such poems, such verses, to bring them even closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make them realize that life is all about being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm nothing in your presence, Ya Allah, and I only wish in my life is you, Ya Allah, and I live and die for you, Ya. Very interestingly, yesterday we had a verse, inshallah we'll be going through that soon, right? Allah asks us to flee to Allah. Rasulullah teaches us to flee to Allah, from run away from all these things that captures us, that strangles us, that prevents us from getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He recited a verse and then fell into prostration. After a while, he would get up, move about in the room restlessly, and again recited the same verse. So prostration is a very important position, as Rasulullah had taught us, right? During prostration, we are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And prostration is a position in which the shaitan hates, because when he was asked to prostrate to Nabi Adam alayhi salam, he did not want to prostrate because he considered himself better than Adam alayhi salam. The Khawaja possessed a tender heart which was easily touched by a devotional verse or anecdotes of the saints. He easily cries, he easily gets very, very sad or very touched, very affected by stories of others. Once he brought down into tears, always kept fast. Often he brought down into tears. We are taught to, in fact, Rasulullah has encouraged us to try to cry as much as possible. The best ways to cry is to realize that to feel this deep remorse in you that you are not really obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you falter in some sense. At times you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't take you don't consider, sometimes you lack in your consideration of Allah as your aim in life, to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's how it is. Try to cry. Inshallah, you will be able to. If you can't, ask lots of dua. They said you're supposed to force yourself to cry, right? They said that a tear that fall for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The face, the cheek will not be burnt by the fire. He always kept fast, recited the Quran regularly, and instructed his disciples to follow his example in fasting and recitation of the Quran. So these are the things that they do, right? Hamza Yusuf was saying, you should be able to read the Quran one juz a day. 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. There's not much to ask from you, that's what he says. But of course, 30 minutes for one juz is only for those who are very fluent in the Quran, those who memorize the Quran, also are fluent in the Quran. Reading half an hour should be a time for that. And of course, if you think about it, 15 minutes is nothing. Kind of time we spend on Facebook looking through other people going here, going there, eating here, eating there, and all kinds of things, right? Sometimes we go into half an hour, more than half an hour, about the videos that we watch, the TV that we watch. We just cut all of these things which will not benefit us in this world nor in the next world. Then we should be able to do things which will benefit us in this world and the next world. The Quran, the reading of the Quran is a great benefit to people, right? In this world and also in the next world. He spent his life as a solitary anchorite. So he's alone, right, anchoring himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indifferent to the grandees and ruling chiefs, he had dedicated himself to the service of Allah, like the earlier mystics of his path. Sheikh Badruddin Ghaznavi was a contemporary of Khawaja Fariduddin and a disciple of his Sheikh Khawaja Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki. He was on friendly terms with a certain grandee for the time who had built a monastery for him. So this is a Sheikh. He was close to some rich guy who built a monastery for him. It so happened that the particular patrician incurred the wrath of the king, and with him, Sheikh Badruddin had also to suffer certain hardships. So his friend, his rich friend, right, somehow became there's certain things that the king was angry with, and because Badruddin was close to the Sheikh, right, Badruddin also had to suffer some kind of hardship. He requested Khawaja Fariduddin to pray for him. So the Khawaja wrote back to him, whoever shall treat the path you had chosen, he will surely invite trouble for him. That means you get close to elites, you get close to the rich people, and then you will have some trouble because it's not the way to do things. You are a follower of the pure-hearted saints, then why did you get a monastery constructed for you against their traditions? So he reminds this Badruddin that whatever befalls him is due to his own doing, right? And so he should move away from things that causes this trouble for him, because what he has done is not in line with the ways of the pure-hearted saints. This was not the way of Khawaja Qutbuddin and Khawaja Moinuddin, nor had they ever paraded their wares in the monastery. They wanted to live unnoticed, unknown. So instead of making a dua, he gave an advice. Was it critical that he moves away from that environment, right, in order to save himself from troubles that are not easy to handle, because it involves human beings. Because of his indifference towards the rich and the noble, the Khawaja had to suffer privations despite his increasing popularity towards the end of his life. All right, despite the fact that he's very popular, but at times, because he is not interested, he is not going to pay homage to the rich and the noble, right? They actually put him into some kind of trouble. They sort of find ways and means to make life difficult for him. Khawaja Nizamuddin says in Si'a'ur Awliya, by the time he came to his journey's end, he was again in reduced circumstances and he was really, really poor. I was with him during the month of Ramadan when the food we had was insufficient for us. None of us took a hearty meal in those days. Everything in the household was of inferior stuff. Very poor. When I took leave from the Sheikh to depart from there, he gave me a sultan for traveling expenses. Later on, he sent me word through Maulana Badruddin Ishaq to postpone my departure for a day more. So give a little bit of money. I think a sultan is a money. I don't think it's food. Expenses, right? So it must be money, yeah? All right. When the time arrived for fast breaking, no edibles were available in his house. I went to the Sheikh and requested him to allow me to purchase some foodstuff from the money he had granted me earlier. Sheikh gave me the permission and also invoked blessings of Allah from. So this is a way of the ulama. They always make du'as for the people around them. Khawaja Nizamuddin goes on to describe the death of his Sheikh in these words. On the 5th of Muharram, his illness took a serious turn. He fell unconscious after performing the Isha prayers. After a while, when he regained consciousness, he asked whether he had recited the prayers. Those present at the time replied in affirmative, but he said, let me repeat it again. So he didn't say that I've not, he didn't deny them, whatever they said, but he wants to repeat it again. Who knows what's going to happen? He just wants to pray, that's what he's saying. Having performed the prayers, he again fell in a swoon. Again, and coming back to his senses, he repeated his earlier question, but again said, let me say the prayers again, but nobody knows what is to happen. He recited the Isha prayers for the 3rd time, and then he shuffled off his mortal coil as he passed away. So Khawaja Fariduddin died on Tuesday, the 5th of Muharram, and was buried at Ajudan. Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq later constructed a mausoleum over his grave. Khawaja was survived by 5 sons, Sheikh Nasruddin Nasrullah, Sheikh Shahabuddin, Sheikh Badruddin Sulaiman, Khawaja Nizamuddin, and Sheikh Yaqub, and 3 daughters, Bibi Nastura, Bibi Fatima, and Bibi Sharifa. So we were talking about Nizamuddin, who was his successor, his son, who became his successor, and that was our personality that we're supposed to go through, inshallah, in the next lesson. Among the spiritual successors of Khawaja Fariduddin, his 3rd son, Sheikh Badruddin, and grandson, Sheikh Alauddin, were noted for their piety and saintliness. That's Sheikh Badruddin there also. Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq was also a devoted disciple of Sheikh Alauddin. Sheikh Alauddin is a disciple of Sheikh Nizamuddin. His descendants too included a number of pure-hearted souls who devoted their lives to preaching and inviting people through their precepts, an example towards spiritual and moral purification. So that's the story of Nizamuddin. All right, we continue with Al-Wafi, a thorough commentary on the 40 Nawawiyah, Sheikh Mustafa Dib Al-Bugha, and Sheikh Muhyiddin Misto. May Allah bless these people for their hard work and their concern, right, on the hadith of Rasulullah. All right, we're on hadith 20. We were on hadith 20. We completed hadith 20. We'll just look at the hadith and read it again. Al-haya'u min al-iman, right? Shyness is part of faith, is of faith. And Abi Mas'ud Uqbata bni Amrin Ansari al-Badri, that's the name of the person who mentioned this hadith. Radiallahu anhu qala, qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna mimma adrakan nasu min kalamin nubuwah ula. All right, he says, surely of what was explained or made known to mankind from the words of the ancient or the early prophets, right, is idha lam tastahi, when not you have shyness or shame, fasna ma shi'ta, then do whatever you wish. Rawahul Bukhari. So it's about shame. If you have no shame, having no shame will not stop you from, will allow you to do whatever you want to do. A sense of shyness adorns Muslim women. We talk about Muslim women and shyness and shame. She communicates when necessary and she does it firmly. She's not one who goes around, parading herself, being very, trying to entice, trying to show off whatever she has and things like that. Right? She keeps to herself. Right? So the shyness is the one that beautifies a woman. Right, that is what a woman is made for. She communicates, but it doesn't mean she doesn't communicate. It doesn't mean she doesn't work with society. She does, but when it's necessary and does it firmly. The fruits of shame include, so that's about the woman. Then the fruits of shame include virtuousness, fidelity, and respectability. When you have shame, then you have respectability. Then people respect you. You have dignity also. The opposite of shame is insolence, rudeness. When you have no shame, you're rude. You're rude to Allah, you're rude to everybody, and you are wicked. Parents and educators should revive the trait of shame using tried educational methods of supervision and rectification. So they need to supervise their children, their students, and to rectify what is not right. Because to do it must be very subtly. Of course, very importantly is that it has to be built from a very young age, this understanding of having a sense of shame in not wanting to show off the shape of your body. Right? Some people nowadays, they dress up until you can see the whole the contours of their body. That's we would consider that kind of woman having no sense of shame and modesty, right? Because she doesn't mind showing parts of her body, not as exactly, but the shape of her bodies. It's really, really very sad. Once I was in Geylang, I was just buying some chicken. This lady, she was so tight and she's such a big bag that the man was just looking. I was looking at the man, looking at look at that woman. So it's not someone who has a sense of shyness and shame, right? With modesty, will not do that to show shapes of the body. That's why a woman with shyness would make sure that when they wear their shirt or their blouses and below their private parts, so that the shape is not seen and the butt is not seen. And the one man also, they shouldn't be wearing very tight clothing, where you can see the shape of the front and the back and everything. It's just not. It shows lack of shyness and modesty. You should keep righteous company, avoid bad company, because that's how you build yourself, and choose beneficial books and avoid corruptive films. Shame is good. There is no shame in teaching the rulings of the religion and no shame in seeking the truth. Try, put in effort to learn all these things. This kind of shame where you're shy to teach people, you're shy to encourage people, this kind of shame is what we call blameworthy shame. All right, we go on to Hadith 22, al-istiqamah wal-iman. All right, an Abi Amrin, sorry, an Abi Amrin wa qila Abi Amrata Sufyan ibn Abdullah Thaqafi radhiyallahu anhu qala qultu ya Rasulullah قل لي في الإسلام قولا لا أسأل عنه أحدا غيرك قال قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم رواه المسلم. That's the translation. Uprightness and faith. It is on the authority of Abu Amr, and it has been said, Abu Amrah Sufyan bin Abdullah said, radiallahu anhuma, both of them. Ya Rasul, I said, so the one who said is Abu Amrah Sufyan. He said, I said, Ya Rasulullah, tell me something about Islam that I will not ask anyone besides you. He said, say, I believe in Allah and then be upright. So it is just say, I believe in Allah and then be upright. So this man is asking Rasulullah something about Islam that will be enough for him. That's what he said, that I will not ask anyone besides you. So Rasulullah says, believe in Allah and be upright. Related by Muslim. The occurrence of this hadith as Muslim has written the hadith in the book of faith. So Muslim is a scholar of hadith and he's got books, Muslim, Sahih Muslim, right? The chapter on gathering the characteristics of Islam is number 3, book of faith, number 38, sorry. And Al-Tirmidhi in abstinence, the chapter on what has reached us concerning guarding the tongue, number 2412. Tirmidhi and Ibn Majah in tribulations, the chapter on restraining your tongue in tribulation, number 3972. So both Ibn Majah and Tirmidhi saw it under restraining the tongue. All right. The other one here is characteristics of Islam. So of course, it's one of the ways, right, is to have istiqamah. The importance of the hadith. This hadith is an amazing example of the comprehensive speech that was unique to Rasulullah SAW despite its brevity. Short, but lots of knowledge from it. It brings together all foundations of Islam in 2 words, faith and uprightness. So every foundation of Islam is in it, faith and uprightness. It is known that Islam is Tawheed and obedience. So faith is linked to Tawheed, and uprightness is linked to obedience. Right? In Islam, it's about believing in one God and obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawheed is the result of saying, I believe in Allah, and obedience is the result of uprightness, as it is compliance with everything that is commanded and avoidance of everything that is prohibited. There is a meaning of uprightness. To follow whatever is commanded, to comply with whatever is commanded, and to avoid whatever is prohibited. This includes the actions of the heart and the body, which comprise faith, excellence, and Islam. Heart, so the faith is the body, acts on it in Islam, right? That is the actions, and then ihsan, where the body would exhibit greatness of the actions, or beautification of the actions that they are performing. All right. The exalted one has said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, فَاسْتَقِيمُوا إِلَيْهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرُوا. Be upright with him and ask for his forgiveness. فَاسْتَقِيمُوا إِلَيْهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرُوا. So an instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be upright, right? Then be upright to him or with him and ask for his forgiveness. All right. Language of the hadith. We've got fil Islam in Islam. It is theology and revealed law. So what is the question says? The questioner asks, what in Islam that I have to know? It is enough for me. So it is theology, learning about Allah. Theo means God. And the revealed law is, of course, the laws that are revealed in the Quran and also via Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Qawlan is gathering the meanings of the religion clearly without need for explanation in your heart, and mentioning on your tongues that you call to mind all the details of the pillars of faith. So this word qawlan is a very strong, deep meaning, right? It means to gather the meanings of the religion, means to know every part of the religion clearly without need for explanation in your heart. It means to know, and in your heart, he says ask Rasulullah for one qawlan, a qawlan. What does it mean? And it means that you will by that word that you are, by this advice that you give me, it will encompass all the meanings of the religion, and there's no need to explain it in your heart or to mention it in your tongue, so you can call to mind all the details of the pillars of faith. So that is asking for something really, really great from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It means be persistent and remain firm in carrying out acts of obedience and refraining from disobedience. It means to be istiqamah. That means to be a consistent, persevering, and persistent also. Firm in carrying acts of obedience and refraining from disobedience. Uprightness is not feasible when there is any sort of deviation or crookedness. You cannot be upright, you cannot be istiqam if you have any form of deviation or crookedness. All right. Legal matters and other guidance from hadith. This particular hadith, short hadith, right, but means a lot. The meaning of uprightness. So first we need to identify, define the meaning of uprightness. In any kind of study, we need to define the various terms so that we understand how when various approaches are made concerning the studies. The Prophet's statement say, I believe in Allah, and then be upright. And the statement in another narration, say, my Rabb is Allah, and then be upright. So one is believe in Allah. That means you have strong faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the other one says, my Rabb is Allah. That he is the one who cares, he's the one who gives, he is the one who nurtures, he's the one who administers. He's my Rabb, he's my master. All right, so you take Allah as your master, and then you be upright. It's taken on the exalted statement, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. The angels descend on those who say, okay, the Quranic verse is, surely those, they say, my Rabb is Allah. Right? My Rabb is Allah, and then they istiqamah, and then they are upright, and then upright. So they say that, then angels will come. Tatanazzalu, the angels will come again and again and again and again on him. The angels, right? Tatanazzalu alayhimul malaikatu, and the angels will come on them, right? The angels, the malaika will come on them, the angels, I mean specifically on them. These are people who are upright. Allah, that not you have fear and don't you grieve. Do not fear, right? And don't grieve. Fussilat verse 30. As well as Allah's statement, subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبَّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Surely those, they say, our Rabb is Allah. So it is mentioned that the statement from Rasulullah SAW is also mentioned in the Quran. So Rasulullah SAW is actually vocalizing what is in the Quran and advising people using the words in the Quran. Rabbana Allahu, our Rabb is Allah. Then they stay upright. Then no fear on them, nor will they be grieving. They will not have any fear. The fear here is very critical to see. This fear is khawf. Khawf is a noun, which means you will never be in a state of fear, right? That means the fear will not be with you. Because why? As long as you take your Allah as your Rabb, you are a slave of Allah who wants to obey Allah, and you stay upright, you will have no fears whatsoever. And you will not be continuously grieving. وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. This is a verb, right? A state of continuous grieving again and again and again. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq commented on and are then upright by saying they do not associate anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? To associate any with Allah, it doesn't mean having a God only, right? That means praying to another idol or whatever, but it's also taking others, people, or money or whatever, right, as more important than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is also considered as associating things with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing should be in this life more important to you than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why when you work also, you stop work and go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day, right? Some people find it too much, 5 times a day. But if you really think about it, right, it is a moment for you to return to your God. And at critical moments which are special, right, moments that are that allows you to be able to be in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, the first prayer is dawn, just before sunrise, right? When the sky just brightens up a little bit, you wake up, right? If you can't wake up before subuh, you wake up after subuh. You feel this great desire. When you wake up, it is just a great state to be in, that the first moment you wake up, you think of subuh and you want to be with your Rabb, whom you desire to be close to. And these are special people who are blessed with that desire to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And of course, you have the dua after waking up. All these things are special things taught by Rasulullah SAW, which allow us to be human beings who are mindful of our Rabb. And then when the sun is so hot and it dips, right, we pray Zuhur. Right? That is really a hot sun. You really remember, it helps us to think about the hellfire when it's really hot, but it dips. So you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we pray Zuhur. There's a rest time actually in most communities, but not in this modern world. Everybody work and hardly have any rest time. Rest time is to eat, and then after that go back to work. All right, then we have Asar, where the sun is just dipping, shadows are doubled, right? And then we turn to Allah despite our busy schedule. At Asar time, we want to clear up our work, want to this, want to that. We run to Allah, we pray to Allah. We're not going to be tied up by all these transitory things of the world. And when the sun set, we do our Maghrib, and when it's very dark, we do our Isha just before we sleep. So that's our life with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our life should revolve around our salat, and not our salat revolve on our lives, as and when we can do. It has also been related that he said, Rasulullah SAW, they do not turn to a God, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, did not turn to a God other than him. So that is it, what it is. It is only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, then they remain upright upon Allah being their Rabb. That is the most important thing, because for the Quraysh, right, there were other Rabbs. And that is why the first verse that came down to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq. Read by the name bismi rabbika, by the name of your Rabb that created. Now that we might not understand the significance and the power of that first line of verse. First and foremost, you have to read. That means you got to learn. You got to be people of knowledge, because when we read, we gain knowledge. Right? And then, but reading, not just reading, but to read by the name of your Rabb, who created. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first verse that Rasulullah brought did not introduce Allah as the only God, but introduces the Rabb who created. And when the Arabs are concerned, they know who is the creator of all. They know, they believe that Allah is the creator of all. So linking a Rabb to the creator, so telling them, right, indirectly, that there is no other Rabb but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq. He created man from a drop, a hanging, clinging drop. Now, of course, we can imagine it. We don't have our ultrasounds at that time, right? But we could believe that the fetus that's in the womb is hanging somewhere in the womb, right? It had been written from Umar radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn Khattab, that he read this verse on the mimbar, those who say, "Our Rabb is Allah," and are then upright. And said, they remain upright upon his obedience and do not deviate the way a fox deviates. They don't move here and there, run here and there, very cunning. No, they obey uprightly. What is meant by this statement is remaining upright upon complete tawhid, complete belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Qushayri said, uprightness is a rank with which matters are perfected. When you're upright, your affairs will be perfected. So you need to be upright. When it is present, goodness is obtained and put in order. Whoever is not upright in his state will see his efforts go to waste and his diligence come to nothing. When you are not upright in whatever you do, then all your efforts will go to waste and your hard work will become useless. It has been said that uprightness can only be mastered by the elderly because it means leaving that which is well known and detaching oneself from old habits and standing before Allah exalted with sincerity. So some says that the young ones might not be able to master it. You got to go through various stages before you can master this uprightness, because it's about leaving that which is well known and detaching oneself from old habits and standing before Allah, the exalted with sincerity. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll continue in 10 minutes time. Listening. Murad, Hakim Murad.
The wall, but the bay'at is turning on the current. And this has been found to be the case by the great ulama, fuqaha, awliya, sada of Islam since the earliest times. So this seems to be the rule, the hand that holds the hand, that holds the hand, but in this case, it's a spiritual transmission from Abdul Khaliq. How does that work? Well, we know that it did work because he gets this zikri khafi principle from him. To this day, most of the Naqshbandiya in the world follow this unspoken, silent dhikr. That was the way of Abdul Khaliq when he was given the meaning of the verse وَادْعُ رَبَّكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخُفْيَةً in the Quran. Call upon your Lord in humbleness and secretly or silently. And some of the Naqshbandiya will have the Jahri dhikr. In some cultures and some contexts, that's effective. But the way of Naqshband Hazrat was this silent dhikr. Very impressive, just silence, khamush. And so he receives this from Maulana Abdul Khaliq. Now, what does this mean for us today? Well, it means in an age in which we may not have access very easily to the great ones. Where are the Khajagan today? Probably under the ground. How do we benefit? If we want the way of ruh, not the way of nafs. If we want the way of service to others, not the way of service to the self. If we long to go back to the time of alastu bi rabbikum, if we have this normal human impulse to live for the spirit, where do we go at this time? Where everybody's on their phones and everybody is distracted and everybody is unhappy and nobody remembers and nobody is centered and society is suffering. The environment is suffering. It's a broken time. How do we go back to that? Well, there are ways that cannot be set forth in books, but many people, when you speak to them, will say yes. They feel that, for instance, the Ihya Ulumuddin of Imam al-Ghazali. People will say, I can't find a sheikh, a murshid appear in our time, but I find this book to be like a murshid. They say, Al-Ihya'u shaykhu man la shaykha la. The Ihya is the sheikh of the one who has no sheikh. And again, there's a mystery here. There's something between the lines that's shining that connects us somehow to the personality and to the guidance and the inayat of the great Imam Hujjat al-Islam, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. There's certainly a mystery in this. And this does not excuse us the duty of finding a living sheikh. That's better. But still, we should not despair. Deme aşk içre kim eder erşad-ı tariq, sen eman yoluna gir, Allah veliyut tawfiq. Ottomans used to say this. Do not say, who will guide me on this path of love? You yourself should enter it, and Allah is the wali of tawfiq. He is the one who gives success. Don't use the absence of the shuyukh as an excuse for not bothering. Allah is always al-Qarib, He's always the near. He's always al-Wali, always the protecting friend. Whenever you feel yourself inclined to leave ego and to find spirit, wherever you recognize beauty, wherever you feel peace in your heart, there you're on the path. Little baby steps maybe, but you're on the path. The path that goes up not the path that goes down. So this Owaisilik, this Owaisi Meshrab is important in our age for very many people, and a very effective thing, a way in which we can be connected to the hearts of the great ones of this ummah. Another thing that he tells us is not to waste time. He uses the language of wuquf zamani. There is wuquf zamani, there's wuquf adadi, wuquf qalbi. These are three technical terms that they use in the medicine chest of human illnesses. And wuquf zamani means to be aware of the passage of time. Don't waste time. What time of day is it? How have I used my time this day? How will I use my time for the rest of this day? Because the lower self wants us to kill time, to waste time, to fritter it away. The higher self knows that every breath is a capital that diminishes. Sarmaye Omr, the capital of the life. Certain amount of days that you've been given, and they always go down and never go up again. They diminish, so watch out. Carpe diem, be attentive to the time. This in our age of distraction, when so many huge entertainment corporations are making inconceivable mountains of money out of people's desire to be distracted and to ignore even basic family tasks, just through entertainment, just through foolish games. This doesn't mean that we can't be entertained and we can't play games. Ours is the way of balance. But when it's too much, it's bad for the soul, it's bad for the brain, it's bad for our lives, because most of those things are a wasting of time. So this is important as well, to be aware of time, to stand with the time, as he puts it. To think at the end of each day, how have I used my time? To think at the beginning of the day, even if briefly and informally, what am I going to be doing today and what are the priorities that I should have? Let me do the important things first, not the easy things first. This is part of a basic discipline that even outside the religious world is something that is going to help you towards success. But we want it to help us in this transcendence. So we move from the world of instinct and desire to the world of love. Not to the world of harsh duty, it's the world of love. It's beauty up there. Beauty is from above, not from below. It's from the ruh, not from the nafs. So this is important as well. So all of these lessons seem to be kind of perennial. But the one that I was alluding to earlier, which I find particularly striking, part of his Ravandagan, his wayfaring, this difficult path of overcoming ego, was that one of his teachers said, for the next few years, you must seek out the sick and the broken-hearted, and you must run errands for them, and you must be with them. Be with them as they die. Visit them when they're sick. If they have problems and issues, go to them, see if you can help them with their problems and issues, and always look for the weakest of the people. And this is, of course, the prophetic way. Look for the weak, be with the weak, serve the weak. And then after this period of time was gone, he was then told to serve the animals, the street dogs in particular of Bukhara. We still have them. The taxi this morning almost crashed because a dog ran across the road. It's perennial. And generally we think these are kind of dirty, hopeless animals. Perhaps the police will shoot them. But what Naqshband Hazrat is told is to be their servant. If they're wounded, clean their wounds and bandage their wounds. If they're hungry, feed them. Be the servant of the dogs of Bukhara. Very hard for the ego, the nafs. Everybody's going to laugh at him. Is somebody from a noble family who is looking after these dirty street dogs. And then his teacher says there'll be one of them who will give you a great gift, and you should look for that one dog in Bukhara. And Naqshband Hazrat says, one day I found this dog and I thought there was a special understanding between me and the dog. And then the dog looked at me, rolled over on its back, started waving its legs, and started barking or howling and doing a kind of dog sound. And because of the overcoming of his ego and because of his love for Allah's creatures, Naqshband Hazrat says, Ameen, Ameen, as if the dog is making a dua, his paws in the air. Naqshband Hazrat says, Ameen. And he says, at that moment, I was granted the opening, the fath, and I saw myself at one with all creatures, and I saw the divine nearness in all creatures, and that everything is the divine names, busy, shining. These are words. What was his experience? We know he dedicated the rest of his life to looking for the brokenhearted, serving anybody who was weak. That's his giving heart. But this is a very high degree. To see things, not just in terms of the outward form, which is just like the screen on a computer, which isn't really what the computer is like, but just pictures and icons and images, but the reality of the computer is some strange thing. But to see beyond the screen of dunya into reality, world of haqiqat. Yeah. And what do you see there? You see La ilaha illallah. The path to that La ilaha illallah is Muhammadur Rasulullah. For us, no other door. The door is the door of the Shariat. And that La ilaha illallah, which was the inner meaning of which became his spirit, what he was, is that there is nothing that truly exists except for the Lord, Rabbul Alameen, in his essence and in his attributes. Everything else is human perceptions, good perceptions or bad perceptions. Either we see what is going on and what God means by something, or we don't. But the reality, al-haq, is all in all. And that's wonderful. This is what sustains these people, a life of service. How can you spend years, poor, cold on the streets of Bukhara looking after the dogs and not shout because the human self can't? How do you do that? Because of the love. And where does the love come from? It's not some artificial thing. It's the experience of the divine beauty in the world and the experience of the divine love for his creatures and the experience of the perfection of all things, even if we can't see that perfection, that everything is all right. Everything is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends things to be. The Jamil or the Jalil, but it is all from him. Kullun min indi rabbina, everything is from our Lord. That's the true meaning of Tawheed, and that's a very high degree. But the good news is, every single one of the Khajagan and the Azizan and the Awliya and all the great ones, when they have received this fath and this experience and they've seen beyond the mysterious surface of things and seen the unity, they say, what is there? Beyond description. But what is there is perfect beauty, truth, compassion, rightness. Absolute love for that, and absolute love of that for its creation. It's good news. What is there is not some kind of terrifying vengeance, but love, rahmah, mawadda, adala, all of these beautiful things. All of them have said that is the nature of reality. That's alhamdulillah. That is what the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw at the Mi'raj and brought down for us. So when we pray 5 times a day, we reenact that moment of beauty and that realization that Allah is Rahman before any of his other names. Kataba ala nafsihi rahmah. He has written mercy on his own self. That's what he is. Good news. So that's the last thing. One of the features of his way, and this he gets really hammered home to him in a vision that he gets from Maulana Abdul Khaliq, is the way to this La ilaha illallah, which is the truth, is Muhammadur Rasulullah. So this is a Bashar way. It's following the footsteps of the chosen one, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Every one of his footsteps, you want to step in that place exactly because he's your beloved and he's taking you in the right direction. So all of the details of Sharia, the Naqshbandiyan compliant. They follow and they follow and they follow. Their sheikhs are the followers of the way of azimat, not the way of rukhsa. If there's an easy way and a difficult way in Sharia, they give the easy way to their dervishes and their murids and to the ordinary Muslims. The difficult way they impose upon themselves. You may not see it, but theirs is the way of difficulty because that was the way of Shah Bahauddin. But for them, it's not difficulty because they love it. What is more beloved than following the beloved, than being like the beloved, than being in the company of the beloved, breathing the fragrance of the beloved? And the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Habibullah, God's beloved, is taking us on the way to the Supreme One. His name is Ar-Rahman. It's all good. Every little detail of the law that he brought, even if it gets in the way of some ego thing that we have, or even if it's unfashionable in the eyes of a materialistic age, is a step towards the return to the day of Alastu bi Rabbikum, which is the time when human beings united in love for the Creator and in love for each other. So it is a message of unity, it's a message of forgiveness, it's a message of service, also a message of hope. Ours is the religion of love. Tariqatum is ashq yuludu, not just mahabba, but ashq, passionate love for the one who is so sublimely beautiful and whose world is so sublimely beautiful and whose way, the Shariat, is so sublimely beautiful. What's not to like? What's not to love? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this blessed place, which is full of the fragrance of the breaths of the dhikr of so many people who've named Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Allah to connect us to them, to allow them to be our teachers, so that we place our footsteps as closely as we can in the footsteps of the Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we become people of true suluk. So we move from the Muhammad Rasulullah to the La ilaha illallah to the Allah Rabb al-Alameen on this path. So that we're people not just of outward Islam, but of inward reality. So that we see the inward reality in the outward things. And so that we move through the world seeing the beauty and the perfection of everything and registering that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is the true actor and agent in all things. What a beautiful vision. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the barakah of this place and the madad of this place and the faid of this place, and inshallah to increase this place in dhakirin and in dhakirat, and inshallah in qabul, and inshallah to grant to the people of Bukhara, the people of Khorasan, the people of Uzbekistan, everything that is good in this world, in the next, and to give them great success, inshallah. Thank you for your patience. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
That was a very good introduction to the Sufi orders by Hakim Murad. It's about Naqshbandi way of life, of approaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love of Allah. Or continue. Al-Wasiti said it is the quality with which all good traits are perfected. So that is istiqam. Istiqam means is the quality which if we don't have uprightness, then your good traits will not be perfected. Ibn Rajab said uprightness is the conduct of the straight path. So the way of the straight path, the way of Siratul Mustaqim is uprightness. You be upright and you will be on the way on the Siratul Mustaqim, Siratul Ladhina An'amta Alayhim. We know this is the path that Allah gives lots of joys. People who are blessed with the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah Himself give us ni'mah. An'amta, you give us ni'mah, Ya Allah. Ni'mah is joys and happiness and great happiness. As mentioned by Hakim Murad just now, the chiefs of the Naqshbandi order takes a very difficult course, the very difficult route to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they're happy because they're full of joy. This is the word ashq. Ashq means ashiq. Ashiq is a Malay word actually. Ashiqah. Ashiqah means those who are deeply and passionately in love with Allah subhanahu, not passion in that sense, right? There's this strong, great love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you are on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, path that Allah blesses you with, you don't find things difficult. It becomes lovely and beautiful. It is a correct religion without any twisting towards the right or the left. It comprises all actions of obedience, outward and inward, and living everything that is prohibited. So that is the meaning of istiqam. Once you say Allah, believe in Allah, this is the hadith said, believe in Allah, have strong faith in Allah, and move on in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thus, this advice gathers together every quality of goodness. Right? Falling short is inevitable in uprightness. If uprightness is the utmost degree in the perfection of realizations and states, so it is known that being upright is the utmost degree in perfecting our realizations and our states of being a Muslim, a true believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The purity of hearts in word and deed. The hearts must be pure of words and actions. Also, say good things, say beautiful things, say pleasant things, do good things, do pleasant things. Doctrines being free of the nonsense of innovation and misguidance, men will never achieve true uprightness. All right, it is the utmost degree in the perfection of realizations and states, the purity of hearts in word and deed, right? Doctrines being free of the nonsense of innovation and misguidance. We've got to look at that sometimes. Things are being introduced into our religion which are forms of misguidance, or which has elements of polytheistic elements, for example. This is quite common in countries which hold on to various beliefs, that when Islam comes around and they embrace Islam, they believe in Allah, but somehow they still hold on to their traditional police with some sense of polytheism in it, right? The cultures that are hard to go by, to leave, to let go, right? So that is why Islam comes to remove all forms of superstition. You see that semblance of that in Indonesia, maybe in Kazakhstan, in India, in China, right? Which has that kind of additions to the religion, changes in the religion, which can cause misguidance. So be very careful and have knowledge on what is right and what's not right. So men will never actually achieve true uprightness. It says that in reality, we will never be able to achieve true uprightness. So that is why we are instructed by Rasulullah to be upright. Try to be as good as possible. Rather, there must be some shortcoming in achieving it. And the evidence of this is Allah, the exhausted statement. So there will be, in trying to achieve complete uprightness, right, there will be shortcomings. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاسْتَغْفِرُوا فَاسْتَقِيمُوا إِلَيْهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ. Then be upright towards Him, then stay upright to Him and seek forgiveness. So stay upright and seek forgiveness. So be upright with Him and ask for forgiveness. We'll see that verse 6. Because the command to seek forgiveness is to compensate for what is lacking, to repent and to return to uprightness. For us also, we are common people who might not be as highly spiritual as some others, right? And our prayers, we know our salat is just so deficient, but we try to pray. So we are doing our istiqamah there. We are consistently praying despite the fact that there are lapses in our concentration, right? And so we seek forgiveness. That is why we are encouraged to say astaghfirullah at least 11 times after each salam. Yeah, after our salam, in our salat, we say astaghfirullah, 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 because we know that we are deficient in the many ways, and we've got lots of shortcomings. So Allah is telling us, you be upright, but nevertheless, despite trying to be upright, you would always have some faults along the way. So seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is also the Prophet's statement as written by Imam Ahmad and Muslim. Be upright and you will never master it. That means you will never master this thing called uprightness. And the statement is written by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Do the right thing and come close. So do as much as you can and try to reach Allah and try to get closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by obedience to Him. Doing the right thing is the core of uprightness, because it is doing what is right in every word, deed, and intention, like someone who aims for a target and hits it. So this is what it is. Try our very best to make sure the words that you say are good words, the actions that you do are good actions, and your intentions are all good, right? So you are trying to hit it, and to hit the target, and you aim at a target to hit it. So this is how you aim. You need to have some skills to aim at a target, and to try to hit it, you might not sometimes hit it. The uprightness of the heart. The foundation of uprightness is the uprightness of the heart upon Tawheed. So the right heart must be dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and has been covered under the meaning of uprightness. So dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that there is no God but Allah, that your life is for Allah, is solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will not be affected by anything else but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You crave being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever happens is not important to you. What is important is how Allah looks on at you. And the heart is upright upon knowledge of Allah, and upon fear, exaltation, awe, and love of Him, and it desires Him, hopes for Him, supplicates to Him, relies on Him, and does not turn to anyone else. All the limbs become upright upon His obedience. And let's look at it. Heart is upright. You have knowledge of Allah, and you have fear of the wrath of Allah, fear of disobedience of Allah. You have exaltation, you exalt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are in awe of Allah, you love Allah, and you desire to be with Allah. Hopes for Him, right? Hopes are on Him, not for Him. Hopes on Him, and supplicates to Him. So we have hope, we make our du'as, we dua and dua and dua, we dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We leave our affairs to Him, we rely on Him, and does not turn to anyone else but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all our affairs. Then the limbs will become upright upon His obedience. This is because the heart is the king of the limbs, and they are its soldiers. The heart moves the limbs. And the limbs doesn't only mean hands and legs, where the Arab language is concerned. We're going to trace this. Our tongue are our limbs, our eyes are our limbs, our parts of our body that act are our limbs. If the king is upright, his soldiers and subjects are upright. As Allah said, indeed, there is a lump of flesh in the body. If it is sound, the whole body is sound. If it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. Indeed, it is the heart. So your heart is corrupted, right? Your actions will become, it will manifest in your actions sooner or later. The uprightness of the tongue. After the heart, the most significant limb, see, they say the tongue is a limb, right? Which uprightness must be observed as the tongue, for it is the heart's interpreter and speaks on his behalf. If the tongue doesn't speak on behalf of the heart, it is when the tongue is a hypocrite. It is when the tongue is a liar, cannot be a believer, because a liar at that point in time when he lies, right, he says what is not in his heart. This is supported by what is found in Tirmidhi's narration. I said, Ya Rasulullah, what is feared the most for me? He then grabbed his own tongue. Al-Tirmidhi then said, this is a good, authentic hadith. Now, this is not a complete narration, because not sure who is the I here, because Tirmidhi cannot be the I, because Tirmidhi comes way after, long after Rasulullah has passed on. But it's important is a hadith which says the tongue, take care of your tongue. Don't say things which are not necessary. Don't comment on people without really good knowledge of people, right? So scholars, people who have great knowledge, hardly say much, especially concerning rulings, because they are aware that in rulings there are many, there are khilafs, there are differences of opinion. So it is not for us to condemn one for not doing what you have been taught to do all this while. That is also what Imam Ahmad has written in his Musnad on the authority of Anas radiallahu anhu, that Rasulullah said, a slave's faith will not be upright until his heart is upright, and his heart will not be upright until his tongue is upright. So if you say nonsense, then something wrong with that. Be careful of what you say. Try to say good words at all time. No curses, no swearing, no shouting, no screaming, no words that hurt and things like that. Additionally, there is what At-Tirmidhi has written on the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, marfu'an and mawfuqan. Mawqufan, not sure it means marfu' from the rafa', it's raised. Mawquf, I don't know what's mawquf, like waqaf, like kind of, stopped. I'll have to find out that. what those meanings are. When the son of Adam wakes up, all the limbs subjugate the tongue and say, have taqwa of Allah regarding us. We go according to you. If you are upright, we are upright. If you are crooked, we are crooked. So the tongue, what the tongue says, is very important to all parts of the body. That is why in the next world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Yasin that Allah says your tongue will be sealed and the hands and the legs will suffocate. Right? You went through that in our Quran course. The benefits of uprightness. Uprightness is stability, triumph, vigor, and victory in the battle between obedience and passions and desires. So if you are upright, you'll be stable. Right? You're grounded, right? To be in following the ways of Rasulullah. You have triumph. You triumph over your passions and your desires, and you have strength because you can fight passions and desires, and you'll be victorious over in a battle between obedience and passions and desires. Therefore, those who are upright deserve to have angels descend upon them in this worldly life to remove fear and grief from their lives, to give them the glad news of paradise and to announce that they are at their side in this life and the hereafter. That is what it was, right? Remember the verse of the hadith, the Quranic verse in Surah Fussilat, in which the angels will descend on them. Why? Because they believe in their Rabb and they are upright. So the angels descend on them. The angels say there will be no fear and grief on them for their lives, and they will be given the good news of paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allahu summa istaqamu tatanazzalu alayhimul malaikatu alla takhafu wa la tahzanu wa abshiru bil jannati allati kuntum tu'adun. Nahnu awliya'ukum fil hayati dunya wa fil akhirah wa lakum fiha ma tashtahi anfusukum walakum fiha ma tadda'un nuzulam min rafurir rahim. Beautiful verse from Surah. The angels descend on those who say, our Rabb is Allah and are then upright. Do not fear and do not grieve, but rejoice in the paradise you have been promised. We are your protectors in the life of this world and in the next world. You will have there all that your souls could wish for. You will have there everything that you demand. Hospitality from one who is ever forgiving, most merciful. So, Fussilat, verses 30 to 32. The importance of uprightness. The importance of uprightness is evidenced by the Prophet ﷺ commanding it. So, because Rasulullah commanded, it is important. Allah the Exalted has said, be upright as you have been commanded. I don't have the Arabic here, sorry. Ibn Abbas said, there was no verse that was revealed to Rasulullah ﷺ in the entire Quran that was harder and more difficult than this verse, that is be upright as you are commanded, because it's not really easy to be upright. This is from the Sahabas, right? But it's not impossible. When his companion said to him, you have turned gray early, he replied, Hud and his sisters have turned me gray. And his Hud and the verses together with Hud, right, has made him gray because he is worried that he might not follow, might not be able to abide by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be upright. It is an authority of Hassan al-Hassan that he said, when this verse came down, Rasulullah prepared himself and was not seen smiling. Yeah. Ibn Abi Hatim narrated this. Al-Qushayri has mentioned from one of the people that he saw Rasulullah in his sleep and said to him, Ya Rasulullah, you said Hud and his sisters have turned me gray. What part of them made you turn gray? He replied, be upright as you have been commanded. That is what it is. You are commanded to be upright. If you defy that order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you're in for it. 7. The hadith advises that uprightness be commanded upon tawheed and sincere worship of Allah alone. Right? So on belief, true belief in Allah, the only God, and dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sincere worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Companions, keenness to learn their religion and protect their faith. So the hadith tells us that the companions are very keen. They ask Rasulullah the best of their religion, or give them something which is easy for them to just know about it. And Allah, Rasulullah says, right, believe in Allah, amantu billah, right, and Rasulullah says, istiqam and istiqam. All right. Alhamdulillah. We continue with Fussilat. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did verses 22 to 23 in the last lesson. They did not veil themselves such that their eyes, their ears, and skin will witness against them. Here we talk about people in the hellfire, right, who had their eyes and their ears and the skins witnessing against them. And the problem was that they did not cover these eyes and the skins and the ears from seeing their actions. Of course, how to cover your eyes, your ears, eyes, and skins while you commit acts of disobedience against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these will witness against them. They thought that Allah did not know most of what you did, right? They did, so not you, what they did. So they thought they do it in unseen, people can't see it, they do it in their hearts, whatever it is, right? But Allah knows exactly what goes on with you. And not only Allah knows, Allah has witnesses in yourself. Their evil thought of their Rabb has destroyed them, so they are losers. What is the evil thought? They don't believe Allah. That is a wrong thought. And they have bad thoughts of Allah. They don't have good thoughts of Allah, and that destroyed them. And they are losers. All right, continue. فَإِن يَصْبِرُوا فَالنَّارُ مَثْوًى لَهُمْ. That if they endure, then the fire and abode for them. وَإِن يَسْتَعْتِبُوا فَمَا هُمْ مِنَ الْمُعْتَبِينَ. And if they seek favor, then not they of those given favor. مُعْتَبِينَ. Then if they will endure, still the fire is their abode. And if they ask for goodwill, they are not those who shall be granted goodwill. So again, in the hellfire, Allah says that if they are patient, I mean, they hold themselves, they control themselves in the fire, but the fire will be their place of refuge. They will stay there. Mathwa lahum for them. Whether they bear it patiently or not, they are in the fire. What an absurd situation. Patience now entails enduring the fire. So they didn't have patience, they didn't hold themselves when they were in this world, right, controlling themselves from all their bad passions and desires that caused them to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then they will have that patience and endurance in the fire. It is no longer the patience that withstands adversity in order to achieve a cherished goal and earn reward from Allah. In this world, we hold ourselves, right, against difficulties in our lives. Why? Because we cherish that reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cherish a goal, and the goal is Jannah. And the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He has mercy on us and He admits us into Jannah. But here, you will be patient. So this is a sarcasm. Your patience, you have to withstand it. You have to endure the fire, but you'll stay in the fire forever. There's a sort of patience that incurs the penalty of hell where they abide. If you ask for anything good, فَمَا هُمْ مِنَ الْمُعْتَبِينَ, then not you, not they. And if they ask of anything good, not they of those who are given good. They will have no escape or way out from it. Even if they try to please Allah and offer excuses, nothing of that will be accepted from them. Ibn Jarir says the meaning of the ayat, وَإِن يَسْتَعْتِبُوا, they will ask to go back to this world, but this plea will not be answered. We heard in various parts of the Quran, they will say, Ya Allah, send us back to the world, Ya Allah. We will do what's good, Ya Allah. Of course, that is over. Test is now. Are you going to do good or not? Right? If you are not able to do good, then the next world will be hell for you. There is no way back. No remonstration or acknowledgement of error will suffice. No matter how much you regret, no matter how much you say, I'm so sorry, Allah, please send me back, please send me back. No way you'll go back. It is customary for admissions of error to be coupled with a request for forgiveness after removing the causes of strained relations. Right? So when we have covered, when we make mistakes, we ask for forgiveness, and after we remove that unhappiness that causes us. Now, no admission of error is allowed, let alone forgiveness and improved relations. So nothing is given to them. وَقَيَّدْنَا لَهُمْ قُرَانَاءَ فَزَيَّنُوا لَهُمْ, and we destined for them companions that they beautified for them. ma bayna aydihim, what is in front of them, wa ma khalfahum, and what is behind them. Wa haqqa, and justified, alayhim, against them, al-qawlu, the word, fi umamin, among nations. Qad khalat min qablihim, surely has passed from before them, min al-jinni, from the jinn, wal ins, and mankind. Innahum, surely they kanu, they were khasirun, those who lose or losers. They were the losers. And we have appointed for them comrades, friends. It was qarin as friends. It's Quran, the plural of friends, qarin. So that they have made fair seeming to them what is before them and what is behind them. And the word proved true against them among the nations of the jinn and men that have passed away before them, that they shall surely be losers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, reminds people, qayyatna lahum qurana, right? And has been destined for them, their friends, their companions. Allah assigned companions to these believers. The verb qayyatna, designating eggshell, since the vicious and corrupt people who vanquish men encompasses him like eggshell, right? So that means they encompass you, they influence you, they make you believe that all the evil things that you do is good. These are the kind of friends you have, right? Who teaches you better. That is why we should not be in the company of people who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? They will enclose you and they corrupt you. They are corrupted people, they make you corrupt. Right? Robbing them of their thought and distinction, such that evil did seem fair to them. This is the kind of friend that Allah uses word to show the intensity, the severity of having friends that ask you, that are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will be involved with them in your disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How painful is such state for man, leading him to the abyss of corruption, impeding him from finding deliverance. So instead of getting enlightenment, instead of getting dignity, instead of being, having this great closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are prevented by their own group of friends. The Arabic word qayyat is at times employed in the sense of metamorphosing. That is the metamorphosis, when you talk about metamorphosis, you talk about the butterfly. From the egg, it becomes a larva. It doesn't look like a butterfly at all. Then from a larva, it turns into a cocoon. Nobody thought it's going to be a beautiful butterfly. But it causes it to change. Of course, that one is changing. I'm giving an example of a butterfly. It's not a good example, actually. But to metamorphise you is to change you completely. Changing something into something else is the meaning of metamorphosis. فَزَيَّنُوا لَهُمْ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم, and then they made it beautiful for you. Whatever is in front of you and whatever is behind you. Bad friends adversely influence human mind and character, since they take advantage of instincts and natural desires. They know how to play with you. They know how to play with your emotions. They know how to make you move away from the ways of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they themselves are doing it and they don't want to be alone doing it. They want friends together with them. Just like the devil has disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using his intellect, so-called intellect, or his logic, that why should I bow down to one who is made of clay when I'm made of fire? This is using his logic. Right? These friends will do that. Man loves good and beauty by dispositions, and seducers take advantage of the same to make vicious acts seem good, so that their victims easily accept them. They justify all evil acts. They find ways and means to make evil acts look good. Like for example, right now, those sympathizers of the LGBT, they are just human beings, they just need love, they are good people, and things like that. Everybody has made a choice in their life. That's the way they live and things like that. As a consequence of which man regards his past sins as fair, as that is what is behind him, there's past sins, and what's coming, and that man refrains from repentance, right? To sum up, and of course, whatever is coming is in front of him, ahead of him, he sees them as beautiful, it's fine, I'm doing all these things, I'm fine, I'm doing things right because I'm given this desire by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm okay. Allah gives it to me. To sum up, the blessed verse makes a reference to disbelievers' misfortune, evil fate, humiliation, and the fact that they have lost the sacred spirit and the divine faculty vested in human disposition. Their heart was supposed to embrace angels instead of devils instead devils frequently. So instead of embracing angels, instead of walking with angels, instead of having angels coming down on you, right? When angels will tell you, you will have no fear, no grief, the devils will be around your hearts. Consequently, friends and companions from among devils and evil jinn and men are assigned to them as their intimate companions, encompassing them from all sides, making their vicious deeds seem good to them. They assured them that their past had been glorious and their future will also be bright. They made them see everything attractive and pleasant on every side. They have all the justifications for all the evils that they did. Told them that those who criticized them were foolish. Those who made any progress in the world before them had been doing the same that they were doing. You want to be progressive in this world? Then you do all these acts and you will be fine. Ahead of them, there was no hereafter at all in which they might have to be called to account for their deeds. But if at all the hereafter did take place, as some foolish people assert it would, the God who was blessing them in the world would bless them there too. So it's okay, no, it's Allah is all merciful, right? It's okay, you just do whatever you want to do. Do all these things, you live in this world once only, come on. Let's enjoy life. Let's, all kinds of things they say, right? And they say, well, Allah gives us lots in this world. Allah will give us more in the next world. In Surah Kahfi, Allah mentioned about the man who has so much in this world and tell his friend, what the friend tell him, why not you go in and say, MashaAllah, and be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, no, Allah given me a lot. He will give me better in the next world. Hell cannot be made for them, but for those whom Allah has deprived of His blessings here. So they are saying, because we are in good condition here, the next world will be good for us also. The word of torment. The qawl is the word that is said for those people who disobey Allah, they will go to hell. Just as it was justified against the nations of the past who did what they did, men and jinn alike. The word refers to the threat of Allah's punishment sounded by Allah to nations which rejected their respective messenger and which materialized for every nation which rejected their respective messenger. Right? في أمم قد خلت من قبلهم من الجن والإنس. In nations, right, from before you, those who have gone ahead of you, who thought they were successful in this earth, the word against them is true, that is, they will go to hell. من قبلهم من الجن والإنس. Such comrades are in fact human devils, shaitan, who carry out the mission of the jinn devils, shaitans, the real devils. These devils are found in every community. This is why we are taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end of the Quran, after we read the Quran, after we learn the Quran, we know about the Quran, all the various situations in the Quran, Allah teaches us this. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. I seek protection from the Rabb of mankind. Malikin nas, the king of mankind. So getting more and more desperate. For first, the Rabb is a master. Then you have the king. Then ilahin nas, the God of mankind. Min sharril waswasil khannas, from the evil of the whisperings of the sneaker. Min sharril waswasil khannas, alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, the one that whispers in the chests of mankind. Minal jinnati wan nas, jinn and mankind. So there's jinn, there's man who whispers into your hearts, tell you that whatever you do is okay, it's fine doing all these things. You have a reason, you were abused, you were this, you were that, fine, just do it. Allah will forgive you, don't worry. Allah knows your situation. Disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inside the public against the Islamic lifestyle, whenever any Islamic worker makes efforts to revise Islam in a society, they use their position of power and influence to make people believe that the un-Islamic lifestyle is a solution to all problems and the means of progress and prosperity. Many leaders, some leaders, for example, would be Kamal Atatürk, who saw Islam as a religion, a backward religion. So to progress, you must be like the West, you must drink and things like that. They undertake continual campaigns of propaganda that conditions people against Islamic teachings and conditions them to accept the status quo as the best option. They find ways and means to go against lost. Oh, it's a religion that is there meant for people 14,000 years ago. It doesn't apply to us anymore. They and those who listen to them prove themselves to be fittingly destined for hellfire. In Nahum, surely they were khasirin, losers. Perhaps the worst thing that can happen to man is that he loses his balanced judgment and can no longer see how foul or deviant his actions are. In this way, he perceives everything he does as good and fair. Inevitably, though, this leads him to ruin. He becomes losers because he follows the ways of the evil and he justifies doing evil. He thinks it's beautiful and the word is against him. He will all be sent to hell. When the disbelievers reach this state, they find themselves among the lost herd of past communities that suffered Allah's punishment. They are in a continuous state of loss in this world and the next. Khasirun shows continuity of state of loss. All right. We'll stop there. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta khalaqtani wa ana abduka wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'tu a'udzu bika min syarri ma sana'tu abu'u laka bi ni'matika alayya wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfir li innahu la yaghfiru dzunuba illa anta. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbana anfa'na bima 'allamtana. Rabbi 'allimna allazi yanfa'una. Rabbi faqihna wa faqih ahlana wa qarabatin lana fi dinina ma'a ahli al-qutri unsa wa dhakar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الحمد لله.